The internet. I'm going off my phone's internet, so it's just.
It's okay. We're live? All right. I don't see it yet. Hey there, Jordan Sheridan, live, Status Coup in Ottumwa, Iowa. I'm going to give it a couple minutes for more people to trickle into the live stream. We are right in front of the John Deere Ottumwa Works plant, and there's a lot of workers striking right around us here, and a wonderful dog. So we're going to be talking to workers and really trying to put a face to the greed of John Deere, like so many other companies. We are in Ottumwa, Iowa, which is about an hour and a half away from Des Moines, Iowa, which is the major city in Iowa. But going to talk to workers here. We came out because, as we've been talking about on Status Coup for, I don't know, months, there is an explosion of strikes happening all over this country. Not only strikes, but unions or workers trying to unionize. We've been covering the New York workers at Staten Island trying to unionize for Amazon. They just announced today that they will be filing for their union election next week. So that's exciting. And John Deere right now, 10,000 workers. 10,000 workers are on strike at John Deere, which is basically the biggest agricultural manufacturer in the country. Makes, for farmers, ranchers, all that. Most of, the four-wheelers, the 10-wheelers, agricultural machinery around this country. As you can see, we're going to talk to workers, but you have going across here basically honking. We've been here for a little bit, but cars honking in support. The community has been supporting these workers. Hold on. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait a little bit for more people to trickle in. Hold on. It is not warm in Iowa, I will say that, but hold on. Status Coup. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Jed, know we're live? Okay. So as you see here, they've been out here, I believe, for this is the 8th day. They got wood and a fire going to keep them warm. Cute little dogs out here too. I'm looking for. I'll be talking to Chris in a minute, but this strike is not just here in Ottumwa, Iowa. You have it in Waterloo, Iowa. You have it in Davenport, Iowa. You have it in the Quad City area, which is the border basically of Iowa and Illinois. In Illinois, you have East Moline, Illinois, Moline, Illinois, Milan, Illinois. There's also strikes in Iowa in Dubuque. So a lot, and you see this here where the strikers kind of spread out and move to let cars in here. I'll start with. I'm going to start with Chris Larson here, and you've been one of kind of the leaders here. You're a former president of the local here.
Yes, that's right.
Right. So I came here because honestly, I don't think the media has been covering this enough, just the explosion of worker strikes happening, not just here, but down south, the west, a lot of workers quitting. But let's start with John Deere. How long have you been working for John Deere?
I've been with John Deere for 19 years now, yep.
And for the most part, the actual work you enjoy?
Hey, it's a job, I come in here and, I give them my time and, I trade that for a wage and benefits. So it's worked out for 19 years. This strike has been a long time in coming. We have a really engaged, pumped up membership. As you can see here, we got a permit from the city. We set up a little strike tent here for Gate 3 truck entrance. We want John Deere to know that we're here, we're entrenched, we're not going anywhere. And let's see how long they can't produce for before they treat their workers fairly.
So I want to explain for the audience, so not just John Deere, but a lot of these companies, they basically set up a two-tier system a long time ago. We're talking in the 90s, where if we're going to negotiate a contract, the current workers, we'll give you some crumbs. But for the new workers that come in the future, you'll get like less than crumbs. Can you kind of talk about what John Deere proposed? We're talking back in the 90s.
Yeah, so what happened was in 97, Deere employed the perfect divide and conquer strategy, where they came in and threatened shut down a couple of facilities, Ottumwa being one of them, Ankeny being another one, and moving them elsewhere. And, what they did was, promise, the guys that were already employed there that, they could keep their benefits and everything. And the people hired after 1st of October 1997 would come in, work for a drastically lower wage, a pension that was about a third to half of our, our predecessors, no post-retirement health care. Incentive plan where we got different factors that weighed in. So they really divided us. And it's been about 25 years this has been broiling. Now we have a climate that's really conducive, to doing this sort of thing. We see Deere, experiencing record profits. They're projected to make almost $6 billion this year. And, due to the pandemic, we came in here. There was no shutdown for us. There was no lockdown. We came in here every day and worked, exposing ourselves, our family, and our friends. The thanks we get is, the offer that they threw out, not good enough.
What was the offer?
Well, you ought to have seen their first offer was so pathetically low. It was a slap in the face to everyone. They did negotiate, and our negotiating team brought back a tentative agreement for us to vote on October 4th. 9 out of 10 people that voted sent them back to the bargaining table. This is not good enough. And what we don't want is them to go back to Moline and just shift around some money, because what they will do, Deere will come in with a predetermined amount of money that they want to spend on labor for the next 6 years, and then that's what the negotiators do. They move that money around to see what, put it where it needs to be, and then give it to us. We don't want a bigger slice of pie. We want a bigger pie. And I'm paraphrasing and quoting Walter Reuther there. You better bring a bigger bucket of money to the table. Treat your workers fairly and with equity is what we're asking.
And everybody watching, smash that like button, share this live stream. We got to get this out to as much people as possible. So obviously the audience knows, but I'll give a little quick history lesson. You have the 1950s, 60s, problems in America, but for the most part, labor unions were vibrant in America back then. You didn't have CEOs making 350 times their workers. There was kind of certain rules, on money in politics where you could not suffocate the system with money. And then kind of starting in the 1970s, all that started getting peeled back. Reagan, the airline stuff he did, union busting. Bill Clinton comes in, Democrats basically just continue his thing, but say it in nicer ways. Then we have the 2000s. This continues. I mean, labor has been destroyed in this country over the last 40 years. Honestly, the last 15, 20 years, strikes here and there, but not like what we're seeing now. For you and your coworkers here, what makes it different now? I know COVID happened, but what was kind of the impetus to say, enough, we're not taking this anymore?
Well, I think you hit it right. United Auto Workers used to be the most powerful union in the world, post-World War II. In the 70s, starting with 1973 with the Powell Memorandum, which basically laid the blueprint for the corporate America's takedown of, our legislative system. We got a political systems that's characterized by legalized bribery. That's a lot of the problems. And, right now we're seeing a resurgence in the labor movement. And United Auto Workers, John Deere workers are ready to spearhead that movement. And, some of the things that, brought that forth again is, we see that these guys are making money hand over fist. You see the ag market is very strong. Corn and soybean prices are soaring. Farmers are harvesting their crops right now. And when they harvest their crops, that's when they get paid. That's when they want to order machinery. You have a lot of loyal farmers out there that, buy that pretty green and yellow paint. But how long are they going to wait around before they buy a blue tractor, or a red tractor, or a blue combine? And, I've talked to some farmers, too, that are behind us. They buy, the iconic American John Deere image logo because it is made by, American labor here in the Midwest by union labor. Another one of the things that I see is, and it's not unique to John Deere, but with the pandemic, it's put a lot of supply issues, parts issues. It's put them behind on production. John Deere, like a lot of other companies, are struggling to hire people. When I came in 19 years ago, I had to take like 2 tests, 2 interviews. It took me like a year and a half to get in here. They're now having job fairs, taking out half-page ads in the newspaper, and barely getting people trickling in here. Because the simple fact is that John Deere is not the premier job that it used to be. And, we want just treated fairly, I understand that you have to create shareholder value. That's the purpose of a corporation. But if you don't take care of your workers who created that wealth, then you're going to have some issues. And, with the proposals they've came back with, it's really a testament to their arrogance, their audacity, and, how classist they are. Look, in August, they rewarded their investors with a 17% quarterly dividend hike. As everybody probably knows, John May, the CEO, got a 160% raise. And, here I am. I make a little over $20 an hour.
You've been here 19 years.
I've been here 19 years. I make $20.82 an hour, I think it is. With the 5% wage increase that they proposed, that would give me about $1 wage increase. Then they proposed another 3% in 2023, another 3% in 2025. That's 6%. So I'm looking at a couple dollars over the next 6 years. Would that even outpace inflation? I don't know.
This rate, no.
Yeah. And really a non-starter for me was anyone hired after the 1st of November of this year under the proposed tentative agreement would not have a secure defined pension anymore, but rather a 401k match. We are not, I feel, and a lot of other my members here feel that we're not willing to sell out the people that are coming behind us, point blank. So.
I call this the United Corporations of America. You mentioned legalized bribery. This John Deere CEO, what is it, 160% increase he got during this pandemic? So I think people hear that and they're kind of numb. But 160% increase he got, yet you're talking about maybe, if you're lucky, a couple bucks. So I want people to understand, take people inside John Deere. These are hard hours, hard work on your body. Can you kind of talk about what it's like to work in a place? Because it's not like, you're no offense to baristas, you're not like at a cash register, like not as hard on your body.
Exactly. I mean, look, I handle benefits over there for, some years. And people wear out just like machinery. If you're doing the same repetitive motion every day, you break down. It's a hot and sweaty environment in the summer. It's dirty. And people come in here, they're willing to sacrifice their bodies and stuff, but they want rewarded. Again, we want equity, we want something fair. And, as you point out about the 160% pay increase for John May, it just goes to show you, how they value their workers.
And kind of want to talk about the broader thing, because you got this kind of stuff popping up all over the country. And, I don't know, national media here and there, they've covered this a little more because it's 10,000 workers. But I don't know, I kind of hear like, oh, well, John Deere has offered a 5-6% increase. Not a lot of talk about like what you just said, that's barely anything with inflation and all that. You hear in right-wing circles, these workers, they've gotten kind of lazy during COVID and they want too much. They should be happy with their benefits, this and that. And frankly, we have I'm not trying to get into politics. You got a Democratic Party that's given a lot of lip service to union. Biden, I'll be the greatest union president. He kind of has been neutral, shall you say, on this. It seems politically and in the media, they're treating this as some separate economic matter. But in reality, our corrupt government has led to the workers being exploited for the last 40 years.
I mean, absolutely. Democrats and Republicans alike have sold labor out. You can look at that with some of the disastrous trade deals that we've done. Joe Biden, proclaims to be the most pro-union president in history. Where's he at? Where's he talking now? He's not supporting us. Come out. Also, no party's been responsible to workers for the last 20, 30 years. In Washington, D.C., Democrats control both legislative chambers. They have the White House. Why is there still a minimum wage of $7.25, the way it's been since 2009? Why isn't there a national repeal to right-to-work laws? There's many things that they could be doing, and they're not stepping up.
Right. And I kind of want to ask you, I'll speak with other people here too, but you see this solidarity and this kind of hope, Yep. And frankly, I haven't seen a lot of that in terms of the left. Not everybody here is like progressive or Bernie people. They're workers. But I think over the last few years, workers have really been deflated because, they had hope maybe in Bernie or other candidates or, just kind of the country moving a little left. And then, Bernie drops out again and people think, politicians in D.C. aren't fighting like they said they would. But I come out here and I told you, like, this is invigorating. Yeah. It seems to me there is some hope. I'm not saying this will overthrow the system tomorrow, but what do you think about, like, workers are kind of finally saying, well, what else do we have to lose?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is workers are becoming more informed, with sites like you, social media, people getting our message out, and just, the climate right now is lending to this, like I said, resurgence in American labor. And now's the time to do it. And if we don't do it now, when do we do it? And you're correct when you say, the progressive movement, the left, has really just been kind of buried up until now. But here's the thing, the cheap labor bubble is busting. People see it, people recognize it. And, just like here, we set up this tent, and we want John Deere to know that we're hunkered down, we're ready for the long haul, and let's see who can starve out who.
Let's talk about John Deere, because by the way, it's definitely not only Ottumwa. You have picket lines, Waterloo, Dubuque, Davenport. You have Illinois, Moline, East Moline, Milan. I'm probably forgetting quite a few, but this is everywhere. I think it's also in Kansas, too, if I'm correct.
Coffeyville, Kansas. We have 9 units in our bargaining agreement, and, like you mentioned, it's about over 10,000 people.
Yeah. So, it's not like the company is just like, we're just honest brokers here. We're going to negotiate. They just filed an injunction. They just filed for an injunction in Davenport. I read some of it. Basically, a judge said that you could only have like 4 strikers at each gate. John Deere said they're, intimidating or blocking people from coming to work. I'm sure that's not the only thing they're doing. I've seen images of, I don't know if it was replacement workers or somebody coming in with like ghost masks because they didn't want to be seen. Can you kind of talk about what has the company been doing in response to you guys striking?
Right. So what we see from the company, you can see behind you there, they've brought in scab security people from out of state. Every time a truck comes in, this truck entrance here, they're photographing us, they're documenting us, looking for ways to, slap an injunction on us like they did in Ankeny and Davenport. You can also see, we have truckers coming in and out. The very first day when we went on strike, you seen trucks come in here, not even knowing that we were on strike, and they're just like, what? And calling their dispatchers. A lot of them, we turned several away. We had some that came in and were like, hey, can I just drop my load? I promise I won't be back. I support you guys. But then you have the ones, we have local contractors that are coming in, like a concrete Drish out of Fairfield has been crossing our picket line every day. FedEx has been crossing our picket line. They haven't been back for a few days. You see Reed and Reed Concrete here in town crossing our picket line. Look, we're here to fight for a better future for ourselves and our family. And every time one of these, truckers cross this line, they're scabs and they're helping John Deere perpetuate what they're doing.
Right. And, I hear in D.C. right now there's been this big back and forth on this big $3.5 trillion deal. You got Manchin, who's as corrupt as they come, Sinema, who's corrupt as they come. But Manchin's really talking about this, we don't want to be an entitlement society. This is what he's saying, why he, wants to block it down. But I see no talk about the entitlement of this CEO hoarding the money. I see no talk of the entitlement of them wanting to basically get rid of pensions for workers. Basically, they're trying to divert money, which is called socialism. They're trying to redistribute money from you to the shareholders. So in terms of entitlement, the only entitlement I've seen is corporate entitlement and corporate socialism.
Yeah, so you got it right there, corporate welfare. Really the problem is, and Jim Morrison touched on it over 50 years ago, whoever controls the media controls the mind. And depending on what flavor of corporate media you're drinking, they develop this narrative and, that we're a system of entitlement. Look, there's people that can start here at John Deere, at the bottom of the pay scale. And I know when I started, if you have like 3 kids, you qualify for food stamps. When you look at workers at Walmart and other fast food restaurants that are the working poor that work, but still can't make a go of it and have public assistance, who's the welfare recipient? These multinational companies that aren't paying a living wage, then that burden gets shifted over to the taxpayers. That's the real story.
But what are you talking about? I was told by CNN, CNBC that the economy's roaring back and the job, unemployment's going down. Before this current tight labor market, people were returning to jobs, even though they were shitty hospitality jobs. So what you're describing kind of seems like a new Gilded Age, but the way the media has framed it is all you got to do is look at GDP and the unemployment number, and everything's dandy.
Yeah, so the owners of this country also own corporate media, so obviously they're going to, write the story they want, and people eat it, and that's the unfortunate thing about it. And that's the nice thing about independent media outlets like yourself that are coming out and spreading the truth, and hope more people pick up on it.
And last one for you. What's your message to people that don't live in Iowa, that don't work for John Deere? Maybe they're unhappy at work. Maybe they have been kind of, let's just say, politically depressed. They feel leaderless. Maybe they were a Bernie guy or somebody else, but they feel like it's all for nothing. Everybody, they're all corrupt. Nothing's ever going to change. What's your message, how they could, should they have hope, and how do they get active in their community?
Absolutely have hope. First thing I would do is shut off corporate media, get yourself informed, get involved in your community, demand more for the legislators that you're voting in, and just don't get wrapped up in wearing a blue or red jersey. Demand more, expect more, and get involved. Support strikes. Even if you're a non-union worker, the things that we are doing here is going to make gains for you down the road. And again, UAW, John Deere workers are really proud to spearhead this movement, and we'll see how it all turns out once the dust settles.
And that's also another important part, one more thing. Because in this United Corporations of America, we have commodified health care. It's not easy to strike. It's not easy to strike for a lot of reasons, obviously losing paychecks, this and that, but they're gonna cut off your health care soon. Because of, I assume, strike funds and other things, you could have health care in the meantime, but might not be the same quality. So basically, because we have shattered the social safety net in this country for half a century, they make it very difficult for workers to fight back.
They do. So, I mean, that's another reason why we need universal health care. Because if you had universal health care, you could leave a bad employer. You could take your health insurance with you. It would force employers to be more competitive with their wages for everyone health care. On that note, I'd like to touch on the fact that Deere is propping up this falsehood that they pay $12 an hour per employee for health insurance, which if you figure it out for just a 40-hour week, which nobody here works, over a year's time, that's like $24,960, I believe, just shy of $25,000 per employee that they're claiming that they're paying for health care. John Deere used to have their own private insurance health insurance company. They sold it in December 2005 to United Healthcare, who's the one that provides their insurance now, for $500 million in stock. Deere is very heavily invested in United Healthcare. And, you know, some of these tactics and figures that they're throwing up are just plain false.
And they've also thrown out the talking point that the average worker makes $60,000 a year.
Yeah, I can show you my W-2. I think it was around $43,000. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Ben. I'll talk to other people here, but this is, you know, one of the leaders out here that has been spearheading this, and I think it's super important because, you know, we came out here, but I think other independent media needs to come out here, not just here. I mean, there's strikes, union drives, workers quitting everywhere. You know, in a country, I think, where we do have a two-party duopoly, so I think more and more people are realizing, yeah, we can't focus exclusively on electing people. We have to focus outside of that, too, and that's what this is.
Yeah, let's throw the party affiliation away. Let's stand for workers.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Bring Toby over?
Yeah.
He's a good...
Absolutely.
Okay.
So as he brings somebody else over, smash that like button. I don't know how many people are watching, but I'm sure YouTube's hiding us. Share this live stream. Post it on your social media, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. As far as I know, there's no other indie outlets out here. Just to show you, they have obviously wood here and a little burn barrel to keep warm. There was a dog here. Toby?
Yes.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Jordan. Good to meet you. So I was just talking to your fine comrade, Chris.
Yes.
And we were talking about, you know, this is basically a 40-year bubble that's kind of popping. We live in the United Corporations of America, I would say.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience. How long have you been with Deere?
I've been with Deere for be 19 years in April. I'm an electrician. I've been an electrician since I started. I've served the Union Hall as a alternate committeeman, and then Chris and I served together when I was chairman and he was president from 17 to 20. So got involved in, you know, the grievance process and whatnot. Talking to the company, met a lot of the guys that are against us at the negotiating table. Was telling them back in 18, my counterparts, man, if you don't come with post-retirement health care, better wages, and a retirement, you're going to be seeing a strike. I mean, I knew that. So, but yeah, I'm a proud UAW member.
And, you know, you always hear for these companies, General Motors, John Deere, well, we got to stay competitive. Mm-hmm. You know, if we give you, you know, everything you want.
Right, it's all about making sure that they're profitable.
Right.
Not so much us. Right.
It's kind of obscene. I mean, they're offering you what, like maybe $4 or $5 extra over the next couple of years?
The labor grade one, about $1.70 or something for me, less than that down the line. So, yeah, I mean, it's really was, in my opinion, kind of a disgrace, really, what they offered us. Right. Had this been maybe 2015, a little different deal, maybe. On the cusp of the profits that they're making, absolutely not. On what we went through with the pandemic and what these people went through, coming to work every day, looking at the news every night, yeah, it's time to pay them like they're essential.
And, you know, risking their lives.
Yeah, ultimately, absolutely. And, you know, the one thing that I'm most proud of that this has gained, what John Deere has done right now is just made us stronger. They've brought people together. They've found a way for us to put aside our personal differences for the sake of solidarity. And they're up against the machine right now. I'm going to tell you, the next offer they bring is going to have to be a fairly substantial offer in order to get this horse to turn. There's no doubt.
And I was talking to Chris. I mean, this is not like a office job. No offense, no offense to office workers. I mean, I'm sure bodies break down, injuries. Can you kind of talk about what it's like here on a day-to-day basis? It's got to be extremely taxing physically, mentally.
So I am fortunate that I'm allowed to go throughout the facility. Being in maintenance, I mean, our job is everywhere. And so, yeah, I watch these people work every day. The different labor grades, the different classes and the types of work that they do. I'm glad I mean, there's times I got to get up in the air and it's hotter up in the height of the ceiling, but I don't have to put on a helmet, you know, and what it takes to weld, a cape and whatnot, and weld when it's and to boot, you're hovering over heat. You know, I mean, if it's 100 degrees outside with humidity, for a welder in there, it's easily 120, and that's on a good day. You know, they can't have necessarily a fan blowing right on them when they're welding, or it blows the weld. The people on the line, yeah, they're working 10-hour days, Saturdays. I mean, ultimately, you're having to work in here, even if it's not about how much you can make by working and living in here. They're forced to be in here. You know, you get 3 Saturdays in a row, you get the 4th one off. Outside of that, I mean, these people are expected to come in here and I guarantee after this contract signed, easily 10-hour days for the next year, right?
You know, I hear bigger picture. You hear all of these political slogans, build back better, make America great, whatever. I've covered the campaigns 2020. And to me, it means a whole lot of nothing, because the reality is John Deere is just one of Amazon and Walmart and name your pick that are literally stealing from its workers. I mean, that's what this is. When you have a CEO who's making 160% increase, I think they're about to have their most profitable quarter in the third quarter.
Yep.
I think ever, maybe.
Yep.
And workers are sitting here by corporate media, by the way, in many cases being demonized for demanding more than like a $2 raise.
Right.
This is theft. I mean, that's what it is. But it's not really depicted that way. I wanted to ask you, why do you think workers now feel more empowered to do this than maybe 10, 20 years ago?
Well, for one, 10, 20 years ago, you know, it was definitely out of kilter as far as the ratio, you know, of how a CEO is paid versus how. But in a lot of ways, corporate media had us believing that we're just lucky to have a job. We're lucky if you're still at a place that still offers insurance and you're not paying, you're lucky, right? Well, what's happened is these corporations, even though they're competitors, have joined together, formed more or less a union of themselves to make us believe that we're lucky. And so some of the places benefit because they've convinced their people that, well, John Deere, those people are lucky. And we're not going to do that. And so those people have to pay for an insurance, or their pension program is gone and they're funding it through a 401k. Those are things that need to come back to the working people. There's no reason why when a person gives you 10, 20, 30 years of their life, and that includes missing ball games, possibly not seeing a grandchild being born. You know, when you're sacrificing those kind of moments in your life so that a company can make gross profits like what they're making, and then at the end of that, they say, well, hey, thanks for working for us. Here's partial pension, or here's 401k. Hope the stock market doesn't crash. And, oh, by the way, you're going to need insurance. Right? If you haven't reached the age of Medicare, and even then you got to have a supplement.
Well, I think what you're describing is essentially the 30-year neoliberal brainwashing and propaganda to workers from the politicians as well as the media that, hey, low expectations, just be happy you're getting anything.
Right.
And that's in the wealthiest country on earth.
That's right. Absolutely. We're the richest country in the world, right? We brag about that, yet we've got the majority of our people, which are the working class, that are going out every day and being forced for both spouses to have a job in order to get ahead in this life. But when what you call getting ahead, if that's a new car or a boat and an occasional weekend at the lake or a week's vacation or two, ultimately what's really, I feel, suffering is the very fabric of what this country was built on. That's our families, right? At the end of the day, mom and dad are tired. They don't have the patience sometimes, although they do, for the kids, if they're even living in the same house, right? There's a very good reason why the divorce rate's 50%. And that's because mom and dad are passing in the halls, trying to still raise the family and hold it together. And at the end of the day, once the kids are grown and gone, mom and dad are stuck wondering who each other is, right? So, I mean, there's no reason in this country that one person's wages shouldn't support a household. I mean, when I grew up, you saw families that had 4 and 5 kids. You don't hardly see that anymore. People can't afford to have 4 and 5 kids. And if they do, mom and dad ain't going to be there to raise them.
Who the hell has time to even make the kids anymore?
Exactly, right? So where do you find the time to meet for a few hours so you can even produce? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad because this is a great country, and it'll always be a great country. But to force us to have to rise together like this, I mean, I've said for a long time, I wish somebody would invest in the people in this country because they're great people. I mean, I know everybody in there with the exception of the most recent hires in maybe the last year. Other than that, these are people I went to school with. These are people I coached their kids in baseball. They're people I grew up with. They're friends as dads and moms. And, yeah, there's absolutely no reason why we can't make it better.
Well, also the ironic thing is, and there's data to show this, the companies that have paid workers, good wages, benefits, do better.
Yeah. Because
you have workers that are happy, more productive. I mean, there's companies, I know one in Washington, I think it's like payment processor. They started everybody at $70,000 a year, and their profit has exploded.
Yeah.
So I don't know if these CEOs, senior executives just don't know that, or they don't have a long-term view.
I don't think they're willing to take the chance. They're not willing to bet on that. But I can about bet you that if you start paying people a good wage to where they're happy to come to work, right, where they feel like they're valued, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's our dignity and value. And it's not just that we're manual machines or that we're human machines and that we're easily replaced by the next guy coming through the door. These people, I guarantee you, take a lot of pride, each and every one of them, depending on what they do, in what they do. There isn't any one of us that doesn't, when we're headed to Iowa City or Des Moines, or unfortunately for the Cub fans, headed to Chicago or St. Louis, right? That when you pass a piece of green machinery, you don't have a sense of pride that you helped build that, or that your brothers and sisters in another factory doing the same type of work as you built that product. Yeah. And I as chairman, I had conversations with the LR manager, and it was brought up that we had voted the contract down in 2015. And I said, listen, just because we voted it down doesn't mean we're bad people. It means that we value ourselves a little more, and that if you think any one of these people doesn't take pride in what they do here, you're sorely mistaken. And to have somebody think that, well, you just pick up the plant and move it somewhere else, you're not solving that problem. You're going to run into people like that all over in the Midwest. So,
I think there's a broader thing that's actually now moving down the generations. Because, for example, I've been covering Amazon workers in New York trying to unionize, and I've been there, and the union tent is right near the bus stop and you watch that bus. It's a lot of 18 to 25-year-old kids coming off that bus, and they are just so afraid to talk to the media, to even complain to their boss. I know of one incident where a worker was hit by a car outside the factory. She was brought in. Amazon literally wouldn't call an ambulance.
Wow.
That worker would not talk, was deathly afraid to even go public about it because she didn't want to lose her job. After she was hit by a car, and Amazon would not call an ambulance. So there is a real, and you were talking about we were conditioned to just be happy with anything. That's also the younger generation post the Iraq War, 2008 financial crash, COVID. Younger people have also been conditioned, well, what else are we going to do?
Just what we do, right? We go to work and we spin our wheels for 30, 40 years. Maybe we get some time after that, maybe we don't, and then we're done. And that's not what the American dream is, right? The American dream is you work hard, you take care of your family, you get to enjoy part of this day. I feel like if we had the wages set at a level where time and a half truly was penalty pay as it was designed to be, that would create more shifts, right? So instead of paying me time and a half, they have a whole nother shift, come in, only work 8 hours. That also benefits us in that that's a whole nother shift of people with health care. It's a whole nother shift of people with a pension plan, But it's gotten to the point now where they know they're paying us low enough. Otherwise, they wouldn't throw the overtime out there like a candy at a parade. You know what I mean? And in a lot of cases, it's forced overtime. It's not even necessarily voluntary, And in my case, I can't necessarily say that. In maintenance, we're not tied to the production line as far as the numbers go. I mean, we do get some scheduled overtime to support the production line. But at the end of the day, these people are getting time and a half, but what does that really mean? It's not a penalty to the company anymore.
Let me ask you, the community, just cars driving by, honking in support. What has been the response for the community here? Farmers who obviously rely on the products and might not get them if there's, a long strike. What has been this reaction you've gotten?
Well, I would say the support from the community in not only this town, but all of the towns that support the John Deere plants has been just phenomenal. Definitely in Ottumwa, it's been phenomenal. We've gotten support from some of the bigger fast food places, and those are ran by people that are part of this community, right? My sister happens to manage Burger King, and she's been excellent for us. We've got some members that are maybe on long-term disability that own a bar, and they're supporting us. In addition to, just our county guys come out and drop some stuff off the other day, the roads guys. It's crazy how the working class is getting together.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing right there, is not only are we seeing solidarity across our own lines, but the solidarity from worker to worker is what I'm most impressed with.
And as this is going on, listen, D.C., Democrats, they're all corrupt.
Yeah.
Democrats, Republicans, some are corrupt but sound a little nicer. I would say the Democrats. But, I don't know. President ran on Union Man Joe. I'm going to be the most Union Man president. When asked about this, he kind of said, well, they have a right to do it. It's pretty much saying a whole lot of nothing. Other Democrats, some have sort of supported, not just this, but the other strikes going on. Republicans obviously don't. But among the media, you really just have this perpetual, almost like politics is like a sporting event, like Team Red versus Team Blue. Right. Intermission is the midterms. Right. The Super Bowl is the presidential. And they kind of talk about policy and the working class kind of in that vacuum of the day-to-day horse race between the two parties. But I don't really see a lot of discussion or coverage of the fact that a lot of the reason you're out here is because of political decisions that have been made in Washington over the last 30 years. The fact that our government has been bought by the same corporations that are screwing you.
That we're trying to fight against, absolutely.
So what do you think in terms of the politicians are basically kind of just pretending this is some side thing that doesn't really affect the broader economics?
Well, so like you were saying, I'm a believer there are some good Democrats out there. There's some good Republicans, right?
Send me who they are.
Right. Well, there's some that, okay, they're better than others, right?
No, I get you.
I'm neither left or right, because I believe that the whole two-party system is to divide us. That's what it was originated for, and we're seeing it more now than we've ever seen. The only guy that I can say that I really have felt like has always stood up and stood out for working class, for unions, is Bernie Sanders. Without a doubt, in my mind, yeah, he's been a politician for a lot of years, but if you go back and look, the only difference between what he was saying back in the 90s compared to now is he was talking about millions. Now we're talking about billions and trillions. And yeah,
it should be noted he actually sent out pizzas to you guys.
Absolutely. And I've met Bernie several times, or a couple times anyway. Was a supporter of his in 16 and 20. Still, he to me, you got Walter Reuther, who I believe was one of the last true leaders of this union, that believed in the people. I'm a big Bernie supporter. Stan Musial for the St. Louis Cardinals, right? So those are three of my heroes right there, just because they were of the earth people, salt of the earth people. And yeah, definitely, I believe both political parties, we're only fools if we buy into either one. And at the end of the day, if we don't get money out of politics, they aren't ever going to hear us till we're doing stuff like this.
Let's talk about leadership, because obviously not just UAW, but unions around the country, frankly, it's been some weak leadership over the years. There's been some corrupt leadership over the years. I remember in 2019, I was in Detroit when GM laid off 15,000 workers after getting a $51 billion bailout, mind you. And the leadership, again, was kind of just like, well, we got to take something, right? Can you kind of talk about, as much as you're comfortable with, how do you think leadership is acting right now in terms of these strikes? Are they supporting you the way you need to be supported, and are they willing to play hardball?
I absolutely believe in the leadership that we have right now. Definitely our local leadership, and definitely the leadership for this battle that we're into right here. I'm not going to talk much about the past and whatnot. But absolutely, I mean, I believe everybody's on board and at full attention right now. I think probably they were just about as surprised maybe by our 90%